Hello, everyone. Welcome to another live session in the series of Rockborne and Harnham collaborations. My name is Bruna, and I'll be walking you through creating a dashboard in Tableau today. Right, so I'm just gonna have my slides on the screen. So the agenda for today is I'll just start just briefly introducing myself and then talking a little bit about Rockborne, what we do here, and then we'll move on and talk about Tableau, talk about why data visualization is important and the data set that we'll be working with and the topics that we'll cover in Tableau, and then we'll get dashboarding. Right. So I'm Bruna. My background is in linguistics and psychology. I worked in research and in teaching in academia for over 10 years, and I really love the data aspect of it. So this is now my main focus at Rockborne as an associate data coach. Just a little bit about us at Rockborne. So at Rockborne, our mission is to grow, is to develop and to deploy the world's leading data professionals. We want to make a real change in the data industry through the diversity of thought, and we keep the quality at the heart of everything that we do. As part of the Harnham Group, we operate at an attract, train, deploy model. So we attract diverse talent. We then custom train them in everything data related, be it Python through data visualization, data manipulation, and much more, such as soft skills, such as stakeholder management and public speaking. And then we then deploy these individuals who are data trained to business, which are looking to strengthen their data and their AI teams. Alongside, we also help businesses upskill their data teams by providing custom training in person or online, and it can be on Tableau, Power BI, Excel, Python, machine learning, and the soft skills as well. So the main topic today is Tableau, right? So Tableau is a visual analytics platform. It's one of the leaders in the market. It's a really, really good platform to do data visualization. And the main reason we need a platform such as Tableau is that us as humans, we are not very good at looking at a table full of numbers. We just can't really derive insights just looking at this screen full of numbers in front of us. So data visualization becomes really important for a number of reasons, right? One of them is that it makes complex data much more understandable. And that facilitates the identification through charts and graphs. We can easily identify and grasp the patterns and the trends and the insights that the data wants to tell us. Consequently, it aids decision-making because it's easier to identify these key insights when the data is presented visually. It leads to better decision-making. Visualizations provide a universal language for communication in data insights. So regardless of someone's level of data literacy, they can often interpret a well-designed chart or a graph, making it a very effective way of conveying information. It's also very good for memory retention. So, and consequently, it helps you to tell your story with your data. So by presenting data in a narrative form, it's easier to convey the significance and the context of that information. And lastly, improves user engagement, which is a great plus for data visualization. So today we are going to be working with a data set that provides information about 195 countries. You should already have the links for it. We are going to provide that as well. This data set covers demographic statistics, it covers economic indicators, it covers environmental factors, healthcare metrics, education indicators as well. Today we are going to be using two indicators from the data set, which are the forested area and the agricultural land percentage for each country. And there are many reasons we can build this visualization, and then there are many pathways we can deepen this analysis just looking at these two indicators from this data set. So we could look at environmental impact, we could understand what is the extent of forest land usage in helping assess the impact on ecosystems, for example, and the environment. We could look at resource management. So we know that agriculture is a significant land user. So monitoring its usage helps in managing the resources such as water, soil, and nutrients, for example. We could look at how these indicators impact climate change. So we know that both forests and agricultural practices contribute to climate change in different ways. We could look at food security. We could look at land use planning, economic considerations, given that land usage in agriculture contributes significantly to economies, for example. So these are going to be the two main indicators we're going to be working with today. This will be the dashboard that we are going to be building. So we have the KPIs up in the top. We will build some parameters. We'll build a map, some bar charts that will visualize an overview by regions. In terms of the topics that we're going to be covering using Tableau, we're going to be building relationships between tables. We're going to build a map, we'll build the KPIs, bar charts, we're going to build some parameters to allow user interaction. And then in terms of dashboard formatting, we have the containers that we're going to be working with, some padding, shading, and number formatting just to make things look nicer. And then we are going to be using some features from Tableau to allow interaction in the dashboard. Right, so let's get to work. First thing we'll do is we are going to open the data set. So you should have on the chat already the links. So the two data sets that I've asked you to download are the global country information data set and the country mapping data set. If you don't have a Kaggle account, it should be quick to do one. It's completely free, so don't have to worry about that. Once you download the data, so once you are on this page, you're signed into Kaggle, just click on the download button, and then you should save the data set to a folder on your computer. Make sure you know where that is saved, because we are going to need that as we go importing the data to Tableau. Right, so once you have done that, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open this data on Excel. I have it open here. I'm just going to briefly have a look at the data. I just want to say that this is not going to be a live about data pre-processing, but it's really, really important to know what your data looks like, to do some pre-processing, to look at your missing values or new values, to make decisions about it, to see if all your variables are being ported in the right format. So this is a very, very important aspect of data visualization as well, because you want to make sure that your visualizations are going to convey accurate information. So this step of data visualization should not be overlooked. It's really important. For example, in this data set, so you have a column for all the countries, so you have one row per country. You have about 33 indicators for each country. I know, because I have looked at it before, that so on column A, where the country is, on line 152, for example, I have an encoding error there. So this is probably to do with the name of this country, which has a tilde. So there's an encoding error. So what I'm going to do is, I know that this country is São Tomé and Príncipe, so I'm just going to correct that. So on line 152, column A on your Excel table, you have an encoding error. So you can just replace that for São Tomé and Príncipe. There you are. Yes. Okay. Then you save it. So hopefully you all have downloaded the data, have opened the Excel, and have corrected this little encoding error. Now I'm going to save my data. I'm going to close it, and then I'm going to open Tableau, and then we'll get to work. Right. So once you open Tableau, you probably are looking at something slightly different than what I'm looking at, and that's just because these were the last dashboards that I was working on. if this is the first time you downloaded Tableau, you might not have anything on the top here, but you might have the accelerator. So this is the first page that you have once you open Tableau. And because our Excel, our data is a CSV file, we are going to establish a connection to a text file. So on the left pane of your Tableau workbook, I want you to go to connect to a file, text file. Once you're there, you find whatever your data is on your computer, and then let's first import the world data. So you just double click it, and that takes you to this page. So a couple of things I want to explore here. First of all, on the right top of the page, you have a connection. You can have a live or extract connection. So there is a difference between these two. Live is the standard connection that's already there. So a live connection is when you have real-time data. So for example, if you have data coming in every second, you want your dashboard to always be updated with the most updated data that you have, you would go for a live connection. A live connection provides you also with connection to data sources, which Tableau provides a lot of options to connect to different data sources. The other option is the extract. So if you're working with historical data, if you're working with data that you want to access offline, you don't necessarily prioritize really updated the most updated data, you can work with an extract. The advantage of working with an extract is that it provides you better performance in terms of because you don't really rely on a live connection to access your data. Right. So once we are there, we are going to now import another connections, which is the other CSV file that we have downloaded. So on the left pane, you have connections. Just next to it, you have add. I want you to click on there and do the same thing as we did before. So connect to a file, text file, and then we are going to bring in the continents table. But you might be wondering, why am I bringing in the second CSV file? And that's because our raw data has all those indicators, but doesn't really have a mapping to regions. So I can't really make an analysis on looking just at countries in Asia or countries in Africa, for example, because the data set doesn't have that information. So the reason we are bringing in the second data set is that the second data set has information has this mapping between countries and which region in the world, which continents in the world they belong to. So once you have imported the second data set, on the left pane, you have this continents table here. I want you to select it and bring it to the main view here. And you see that Tableau has created some sort of noodle. And this means that it's creating a relationship. So once you drop it, you should see it here, there. So a relationship, it's mimicking a join. It's not really a join. What it does is that it brings it's a flexible way to combine the data for multi-table analysis in Tableau. So what the noodle does is representing this relationship. And these relationships, they happen in the logical layer of Tableau. So you have to think of a relationship as a contract between two tables. So when you're building a visualization with fields from these two tables, what Tableau does is brings in data from these tables using this contract that you have set to build a query and do the appropriate joins to build the visualization. So now what we have to do is we have to tell Tableau that the two columns that are a match. So from the world data, I know that the column called country has the country names. And then from the continents data, I know that the column called name has the country name. So that's the only thing you have to do. So just down here on where you have this equal sign, and then you have to select both tables, both columns, just select country from the world data and name from the continents. So that's it. Our relationship is done. Before we move on, I just want to save this workbook. So up here on the left pane, you have the saving icon. So let's just click on there and let's just save. I'm going to save this as land usage because that's going to be my land usage analysis. I'm going to save it, make sure that everything is in order. Right, so the way Tableau works is when you're building a dashboard, you first build individual visualizations, all the visualizations that you want to build. So remember when I showed you the dashboard that we're going to be building today, we had the KPIs, we had the map, and we had the bar charts. So we're going to have one worksheet for each one of these visualizations. So the first one is already down here. So you have data source, and then you have sheet 1. So I want you to click on there. And the first thing that we are going to build is going to be a map. So I'm just going to rename that as map. Okay, so I just want to briefly cover, this is the page where basically magic happens in Tableau. This is where we build all the visualizations. So on your left side here, on the left pane, what you can see is the data pane. And this is all those columns that you had in the CSV file, they are transported to here. What Tableau has done is it has created a folder for each data source. You don't necessarily have to have that. So just next to the search box, you have a funnel, and then you have this little arrow pointing downwards. Just click on there, and then you can group by folder, for example. So you don't really have, it's kind of mixing up both the CSV files. It's not really a matter, it doesn't really make a difference. It's just how you prefer to see your measures organized on the data pane. So whenever I say data pane, you know that I'm referring to this pane on the left side of Tableau, which has data written on top. So there are a few things to notice here. You probably have noticed that Tableau has assigned a blue color to some of the data, and then down here green color. So what it has done is that it has identified that discrete values such as country names, such as the abbreviation, they are more like qualitative values. They have been assigned the blue pill in Tableau. And what this means is that there are going to be different filters applied to them because they're different kind of data, for example, and other stuff as well, not only filters. And then down here you have in green the continuous variables. So these are things such as fertility rate, the percentage of agricultural land, which is what we're going to be working with, birth rate. So these all are the green pills of Tableau, which are the continuous values, and they have different functionalities as compared to the discrete values up in the top. So as I said, the first thing we're going to do is going to build a map. So this is world indicators data. Geographical data is at the center of analysis. So the first thing going to be a map. So on the data pane, I want you to find the variable, the country variable, and then I want you to double click on it. And this is just so amazing because what Tableau has done is it has identified that country is a geographical, has assigned the data type to country as a geographical role. So if you click on the little globe here, you'll see that on geographical role it has identified country and region. And this means that this longitude and latitude values have been generated automatically by Tableau, which is great because it has built our map just by double clicking on country. Okay, so first thing we're going to look at is the agricultural land percentage, right? So on the data pane, I want you to drag the agricultural land to this icon called color here in the marks card. So this box right here where you have color, size, label, detail, and tooltip is called the marks card. We're going to be using it a lot today. I'm just going to extend this. So what it has done is it has colored each country according to the values that it has for the agricultural land percentage. And right at the right top here, you have the legend. So what this means is that countries colored in lighter blue, they have a smaller percentage of agricultural land, and then countries colored in darker blue have a higher percentage of agricultural land. So that's great. I also want to visualize the forested area, right? So I want to now drag this forested area to color, and perfect, it has done the same. It has also colored the countries according to their values in forested area. But as you probably have noticed, we don't have the agricultural land anymore because it has replaced it. The thing is with this map, if you remember the dashboard I showed you, we only had one map. So what I want to do for this dashboard is I want to allow my users to establish, to decide whether they want to see in the map being colored by forested land or by agricultural land. And to do that, we have to create a parameter. So parameters are a great way to allow user interactions. And the way we are going to do that is on the left pane, so on the data pane, on that same arrow that we reorganize the folders, we're going to click on there and click on Create Parameter. So again, just on the small arrow just next to the search box, click on there and click on Create Parameter. And then this box should show up for you. I'm going to call my parameter Show on Map. My parameter will be a string. I will allow strings. And then I want to be a list of values of strings, right? My first string is going to be called agricultural land, and then I press enter. My second string is going to be called forested area, enter. Okay, so created a parameter. I named it show on map. If you name anything different, just remember what name you gave. Data type string, allowable values list, and then I typed up agricultural land and forested area. Now remember what kind of lower and uppercase you've used in this parameter, because we're going to need to remember that pretty soon. Okay, so I click OK. Now on the data pane to the left side, you'll see that my parameter has showed up. So I'm going to right click on it. Sorry, I'm going to click on the little arrow, and I'm going to show parameter. So just left click on it, normal click on it, and then show parameter. And then the parameter will be shown on just below the legend, and here it is. But as you can see, it's not really doing anything, and that's because we haven't told Tableau that whenever we select one of these options, we want the map to be colored accordingly. So that's the next thing we're going to do. So the way we do that is by creating a calculated field. So calculated field is the area in Tableau that you do some very low coding. And this is just to program Tableau to tell, well, whenever I select each of these, I want the map to be colored accordingly. So just on the arrow where you created the parameter, you click there again, and then you create a calculated field. Okay, so my calculated field is going to be the same as the same as my parameter, but I'm just going to add CF, which stands for calculated field. Okay, so now we are going to write case. So whenever this shows up, you can just press tab, and then it will select that. So case. Now I'm going to start writing up my show on map, which is the name of my parameter. And I should know that this is referred to my parameter because it's in purple and it's between brackets. So case show on map, which is my parameter. I want to say, I'm just going to enter here, when, and now I'm going to write the same thing I wrote on my parameter. This is case sensitive, so you have to write exactly the same thing you wrote on your parameter. For me, it was agricultural area. I think it was agricultural land. So I mean, when agricultural land, then I'm going to write then. And then what I'm going to do now, I'm going to get my agricultural land from my data pane, and I'm going to drag and drop after this then. So, and I'm going to do the same thing for the forested area. When forested area, then I'm going to drop my forested area there. And then I'm going to close with an N. So it's just a natural language way of saying this. I'm saying to Tableau, in the case of the parameter show on map, when you see agricultural land, then I mean this measure called this value called agricultural land. When you see forested area, or when forested area is selected, then I mean this forested area from the data pane. And then, okay, good. So what we have to do now, as you probably have seen, nothing has really changed because we have to put the calculated field into the view. So on the data pane, you will see that the calculated field that you created will be there. There will be a small equal sign in front of the number sign. I want you to drag and drop that to color. Now, let's check if our parameter is working. Yes, it is. If yours is not working for any reason, check if your lower and uppercase are just the same as on the parameter that you created. They have to be exactly the same. Check if you also, I'm just going to put the code here again so you can have a look. Yeah, So Tableau has colored all these countries according to their both forested area and agricultural land, right? It has assigned a continuous scale for that. In that countries with less forested area or less agricultural land have a lighter blue, are colored with a lighter blue, and countries with higher percentages of forested area and agricultural land are colored with a darker blue. This is, in fact, the most appropriate color scale for this kind of data. And Tableau knows that, and Tableau follows best practices. So this is one of the main advantages of Tableau because, well, one, it's very difficult to build a visualization that looks really ugly on Tableau, and it usually follows, in terms of color scales, for example, the most appropriate ones. But in this case, I want to have different colors depending on the percentage that my countries have in agricultural land and forested area. I want them to be very distinct from each other. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a diverging scale because I want the country at both ends, the countries that have very low agricultural land and forested area are a different color from the countries that have a very high measure of these values. So on the marks card on color, you can click on that and then go to edit colors. And then the palette that it has chosen is the blue one. I'm going to go down there and select the green-blue diverging. Perfect. Next thing I'm going to do is, so I actually want to be reversed because I want the higher percentages to be in green and the lower percentages to be in blue. Just before I click OK, I want you to select the advanced because this is telling us that the center of this scale is 49. So that's about 50%. I'm going to make it 50 so it's more exact. So I know that countries that have more than 50% of forested area and agricultural land will be colored in green, and countries that have less than 50% will be colored in blue. So I'm just going to click apply. And there it is. So I know, for example, that in forested area, we have a few countries. So we have Brazil, which has more than 50%. We have Congo, we have Sweden, Finland. And then if we move on to agricultural land, more countries in the world we have with more than 50% of agricultural land. And the scenery changes quite a lot from these two measures, which is very interesting to see. Right, next thing I'm going to work on is so whenever you hover over any of these countries, you see that this little box appears with country and then the name of the country, and then this measure called show on map. This is called a tooltip. So I can put anything on the tooltip. And what I want to have on the tooltip is actually the values from both my variables, my agricultural land and forested area. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to drag the two values, agricultural land to tooltip, and drop it in tooltip. And then the forested area and drop it to tooltip. Perfect. Okay. So if you hover over, you can see that they have appeared there, but I want to do some formatting so it looks a bit nicer. So I want you to click in tooltip. And then, well, first I'm going to delete this country because I don't really need that word there. It's pretty obvious that whatever comes after is the name of the country, right? So I'm just going to delete that. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger, so size 11. It's already on bold, so that's good. Now I want to remove the percentage sign from agricultural land because what I'm going to do after is I'm going to show the numbers with percentages. I'm also going to do the same for forested area. And then on what you have here on show on map, so this is our parameter, right? So the value that's going to show up here is going to be whatever is selected in the parameter. Well, I don't really want that. I want two values here. So I'm just going to delete that so that I have the two values that I want to show, and then in the name of the country. And then I'm just going to press OK and see. Well, it's looking almost there. So next thing I want to do is show these numbers as percentages. And there are many ways you can do that in Tableau. You could do that in the view here, but I want to do that in the data pane through the default properties because I want that every time I use these two values, they show up as percentages. So I'm going to change the default properties of these two. So right-clicking on agricultural land first, go down to default properties, number format. Once you click there, click on percentage. I'm going to leave it at 2 decimal places. Okay, cool. It has changed agricultural land to percentages. Now I'm going to do the same thing for forested area. So right click on there, default properties, number format, percentage. Perfect. Yes. Okay. So now my tooltip is looking much better. I'm happy with that. And now I can move on to our next visualization, which were the KPIs. So down here you have where you've named your sheet map. We're going to click just next to it, and this will create a new working sheet that we can now name it as KPIs, which is what we're going to be working on just now. Well, the KPIs should be quite simple. So I'll start first with the agricultural land. I'll just drag and drop to my view here in the middle. And then I'm going to get my forested area. And then I'm going to drop it. Whenever I see this show me icon, you drop it there. So now I have the two of them here. We are going to get to a place where we have both of them next to each other, big and looking quite nice and neat. The first thing that probably caught your attention is that these numbers are not looking good, because what's happening here is that it's summing up all the percentages, and we don't really want that. So on my KPIs, I want to have an average of the agricultural land usage in the world, and the same for forested areas. So we have to change the aggregation. So just below the marks card, you have the measure values. Once you click on the first one, which is agricultural land, you can choose the measure from sum to average. And that's looking much better, makes much more sense. I'm going to do the same thing for forested land. So to average, okay. So this is the average of all the countries that we have in the data set. That makes a lot more sense. Next thing we're going to do is we are going to swap the orientation of this. So up here on the menu, you have this icon that has kind of two arrows pointing, one arrow or two arrows actually pointing both ways. And they stand for swap rows and columns. So once you click that, and then I'm just going to make this, change this standard to fit width so I can see better what's going on. Okay, almost there. Now I just need to do some formatting. So the first thing I want to do is delete this percentage sign from the agricultural land up here. So right click on it and then clicks on edit alias. So just going to do that again. Right click on it, edit alias. Then I'm just going to delete that percentage sign. It's quite redundant. I don't want redundant information there. Edit alias, the same thing for forested area. Just delete it. Okay, it's looking much better, but I still want to do a few things, and I want to change the format size, the sizes of my measures, my KPIs. So I'm gonna right click on it and select format, and then you'll see that a new pane has opened up, format measure names, and make sure that it's measure names on the fields up here on the right. I want to make my measure names a size 10. And I want to make them aligned to the center. Perfect. Now I'm gonna choose in the fields up here, measure values. And I wanna make them a little bit bigger. And so I'll make that a size 16. And I will align that to the center. Good. Okay, that's looking a lot better. Last thing I want to do is I want to remove this row, this line dividers from the rows here. And the way you do that is in the same pane that you have here, formatting pane, you have this icon with the 4 squares, which stands for borders. Once you click on there, you have the row divider down here, and you just change it to none. So up here on borders, row divider, none. And that's looking a lot more clean now. Okay, good. So we can move on now to create the next visualization that we want in our dashboard, which is an overview of the regions of the world, right? So I'm just going to create a new sheet, and I'm going to call it region overview. Okay. The first thing I'm going to do is I have the region, which is actually, this is where we build the relationship between the two tables, right? So now I'm going to drag the region from the blue pill, right, to rows. And now I'm going to drag the 2 measures that we want to use, agricultural land to columns and forested area to columns, right? So again, just like we did before, we are going to change the aggregation from sum to average, because then it makes more sense. It averages all the agricultural land and forested area per region. Now, I have a null value here. If I have spent more time on data pre-processing, I probably would not have that. Again, just stressing out how important data pre-processing is. For now, I'm not going to worry about this. I'm just going to right-click on it and select exclude, because I just want data from the regions there, right? One thing I want to do now is change the colors. I don't want them to be blue. I want them to be like a gray. So you have on the marks card here, you have all these 3 cards that have shown up here. Make sure you have all selected, because that changes the colors for both of your charts, not only the selected one. Click on color, and then I'm just going to change to a like darker gray color. Yes. Okay, we are almost there. Next thing I want to do is I want to draw an average line for each one of these, so I know which regions are above or below the average in terms of the agricultural land and forested area. And now we're going to use a different pane. So far I've been using the data pane. Just next to it, you have the analytics pane. On the analytics pane, if you go to custom and then reference line, click on there. And then you're going to drag it to pane, because that will build one average line per pane, per bar charts that you have. So once I do that, I'm happy with the value being the average. I'm happy with that. I could change the colors, but I really don't want to now. So I'm just going to click OK, and perfect. So here, for example, I know that Africa and Europe are above the average in terms of agricultural land. I know that Oceania and Americas are above the average in terms of forested area, for example. Okay, looking good, but there are a few things that I still want to edit. So I want us to have a closer look at our axis here. First thing, I don't want the percentage sign here because the numbers already have. The second thing is that we are kind of comparing these 2 graphs, right? And whenever you have two axes that you're kind of comparing each other, you want to make sure that they have the same limits. You want to make sure that they start and they end at the same number. This one is ending at probably about 40 something. This one is ending at 50 something. I want them to be fixed, and I want them to be the same. So the way I'm going to do that is right-clicking on the x-axis of my first bar chart, click on Edit Axis, and then this will show up. So first thing we're going to make is a fixed range. I'm going to make this 50. And then just down here on Axis Titles, we can delete the percentage sign. There's no OK, so that's fine. You just close this, and it should have fixed. And now I'm going to do the same for forested area. Fixed, 50%. Make sure both of them are exactly the same. Remove the percentage. And then there it is. OK, cool. So that's done. That's looking pretty good. I'm happy with this. Now we can move on and start building our dashboard, which is really exciting. So now instead of clicking on the menu just next to the region overview that you have, you can click on this other menu called New Dashboard, which is the 4 squares. So once you click on there, this is where we are going to now bring in all the individual views that we have built so far, and we're going to do to build our dashboard. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to adjust the size of my dashboard. I want it to be a fixed size. So just on the left pane on dashboard, I want to be a fixed size. I want my width to be 1,300 and my height to be 850. So just adjust that. And then the first thing we're going to do is we are going to work with containers here. So we're going to drag a vertical container to our working sheet. So what this does is a vertical container allows you to put visualizations one on top of the other, so vertically, right? And the horizontal container will allow you to add visualizations next to each other, that is horizontally. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add my title. So on objects here, just drag text and drop inside there. And then for now, I'm just going to call it title. I'm going to change it later, but just so I have a placeholder for my title there. So the first thing, as you saw, so the way that most Western countries read is from the top left to the bottom right. So all the most important information in your dashboard, you want it to be on the top left. And as it becomes less relevant, you want it to be on the bottom right. So my title is on the top. Next thing I want to put it on the top is my KPIs. I'm going to select a horizontal container because I want to have my parameters and my KPIs next to each other. So that's 2 views. So that's why I'm choosing a horizontal container. So I'm just going to drag and drop that just when I see this shading there, which means just below title. And now I'm going to get my KPIs here, and I'm going to drop it inside my container. Great. I don't really need the title. So just on the arrow here, there's more options on this box. I'm going to click on there and click on unselect title. Great. Just going to make this entire view to make sure it's using the entire view. We're going to adjust that. Don't worry about that. Next thing is I'm going to put my map in. So I'm just going to drag another horizontal container. I'm going to put it down here. And now I'm going to drag my map into that container. Great. So just adjust a little bit so my map has more space. There are a couple of things we want to do here, right? So we want to hide the title as well. So just clicking on more options, unselect title. We don't need a title. Now you see that the legend has come up right down up here. We want to make this legend float. So now you're going to see the difference between containers and floating items. So right-clicking on the more options, you can click on floating. And this allows you to drag and drop this view wherever you want. So that's the main difference between tiled and floating. So tiled is the default setting to placing these worksheets on a dashboard. So what it does, it avoids the views overlapping with each other because it ensures that all of them are visible and they work together. So as you adjust one of them, like I adjust the height of the map, the KPIs automatically adjusted as well. And that's the difference between floating and tiled containers. Floating are more flexible because you can put them anywhere, but as you will see if I place this legend here, it will stay there. And as the other tiles arrange, it could overlap with my other views. I'm just gonna also hide the title here. Yes, make it a little bit smaller. Yes, okay. Next thing is our parameters. So this is really important because this is where our dashboard user is going to select what they're going to see on the map. So I want my parameters to be just next to my KPIs here to the left. So once you see these 4 arrows, means that you can select that and you can place it wherever you want. Now I want you to place when you see this small shadow here, not a big one, because the small one means that it's just going to go on the same container as the KPIs. And then we just need to readjust that a little bit to make it more visible. And then next thing I'm going to do is on the parameters, I'm going to hide the title. I don't really need a title. And I want to make this on more options, a single value list. And I'm just going to readjust here. Yes. Okay. So that's looking a lot better. So now I'm just going to check if it's all working. Perfect. Okay. My tooltips are there. That's great. Okay. Next thing we have to do is add the bar charts. And our bar charts are going to be in the bottom of our dashboard. And to do that, we are going to drag a vertical container down here. And now we are going to place our region overview there. And you see what happened to the floating legend? It just overlapped with my bar chart. So this is why it's so good to work with tiles, for example. Okay, so now let's readjust that. Oops, readjusted too much. Just gonna do a couple of things with my bar charts. I'm also going to hide the title. I don't need the region here because it's pretty obvious, right? So I'm just gonna right click on it and hide field labels for rows. Next thing I wanna do is once I have my bar chart selected, up here, I want to change standard to entire view. So it occupies the entire space of my container. And then I'm gonna just readjust the size here. Yes, okay. And as I adjust the size, you see that everything that is on containers and it is on tile readjusts itself automatically, but my floating element doesn't. Okay, so we are almost there, but we have a bit of formatting still to do. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to change this title. It's obviously not looking any good, right? So double click on title. Just going to delete this. And what I want my title to be is whatever is selected on the parameter. So if it's agricultural land, I want it to be a big agricultural land there. To do that, we go to Insert, and then we select Parameters Show on Map. Now I'm just going to select that to do some adjusting. I want to make it a size 20, quite big, and then I also want to center it on the screen. Okay, good. Okay, so now you'll see that whenever my parameter changes, my title changes as well. So that's good. Now we're going to move on and do some formatting on the dashboard. So we want to have a light gray on the background of the dashboard. To do that, on the menu up here, you have File, Data, Worksheet, Dashboard. Clicking on Dashboard, click on Format. Let's change the dashboard shading to a light gray, actually a little bit lighter. Yes. Okay, so that's done. I'm just going to close this. Now I'm going to change each one of the views So they look the same. Now it's looking a bit messy. So let's start with the title. Clicking on title, then on the left pane, layout. Background, I'm going to change it to white. And then the outer padding, I want you to have a look at the container as I change the outer padding. I'm going to put it to 8. So you see it has created a space between container and my title. And the same thing for inner padding, which also creates a little bit of an extra space. Now I'm going to do the same thing for all the views. So parameters, layout, background, white, outer padding, I'm going to make it 8. Inner padding, I'm also going to make it 8. And that's it. Now the KPIs, white, I'm going to make it 8. We are almost getting there to our ready dashboard. And then I'm just going to do the same for the map, background, white, outer padding 8, inner padding 8. And now my bar chart, background white, 8 here and 8 here. Okay, that's looking much more neat than it was before. That's good. Okay. So this I'm just gonna rearrange the size so I have full-sized KPIs. Okay. Now, last thing we have to do is just have a look at how the user is going to interact with our dashboard, right? So as you notice, once you click on one of the countries, nothing really happens. I want that whenever my user clicks on one of the countries, my KPIs change to whatever the country is being selected on. To do that, we are going to use the map as a filter to the other views. So once you're clicking on the map, you have this funnel icon here. If you click on it, it will use it as a filter. So whenever you click on one of the countries, the KPIs are going to change as well, and the bar chart is going to change as well. I'm going to do the same thing for the bar chart so that every time I select one of the regions, I want the regions to be highlighted on the map. So I'm just going to use it as a filter. Great. So whenever I select a region, that region is highlighted. Okay, that's looking good. The only thing is that whenever I select the map, I don't want the region to be filtered down because it doesn't really make sense to show it just one bar, right? So the way you do that is just on more options. Once you are on the bar chart, you click on there and then you select ignore actions. So that's your fully functioning dashboard. You have the tooltips. Whenever you click on a country, the KPIs change. Whenever you click on the bar charts, the views are going to filter down to that region. That probably needs a little bit more attention on the spacing here. Yes, okay. Okay, so that's your fully functioning dashboard. I hope that you have enjoyed it. Let's just do a quick recap of what we have covered today. I hope you have really enjoyed it. Okay, so the topics we covered today were relationships between tables. We built the map, we built the KPIs, bar charts, we used parameters to allow user interaction. We did some formatting using containers, padding, shading, and number formatting. And then we also worked with dashboard interactions by using views as filters and also by ignoring the actions. Well, this was just a short training on Tableau. We have a complete Tableau course that we offer. And we also offer training on other data analytics tools and skills such as Power BI, Python for data analysis, and Python for machine learning. We also use provide training on SQL and soft skills such as public speaking and stakeholder management. Our courses are usually tailored to the needs of the businesses. So if you have any questions, any inquiries, do get in touch with us. We'll be very happy to talk to you. Well, for now, I would like to thank you all very much for everyone who joined today, and have a good rest of your day.